Hi Darren,
How you going?
how are you?
Good, really good. It's good to be in Amsterdam. I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Before we talk about your music, I'd like to go back to the beginning quickly. Your parents, they were athletes.
Yeah,
So what role did music play very early on?
it didn't. There was no role. Like I was very into athletics. I was very. My family was that's what we did. So me and my older brother Luke, we kind of thought we were going to be athletes. We trained a lot of time up until we were late teens, early 20s, until we wanted to make the Olympic Games. We wanted to be like that. I started getting into music when I was in high school, around maybe 16 or so, in the final years of high school. Just my friends were getting into it at the time, and they started playing guitar and stuff, and I just found it interesting. So I just joined the bunch and tried to learn an instrument. I thought playing drums would be the easiest, so I went into playing drums pretty quickly after I discovered drums and discovered, I guess, a love for music. I wanted to be a drummer and I wanted to pursue music, and then my dream in athletics slowly kind of faded, and the music kind of took over, throughout my early 20s. So yeah.
And well, you say you were introduced to music by friends. So what kind of music would they play? And then, well, did your parents play music at home?
My parents didn't play music, no. But my parents love music. My dad has a very eclectic musical taste. He listens to everything from jazz to rock to R&B and stuff. My friends were really into a lot of punk rock at the time, a lot of short, fast, loud music, and that was what was popular at the time. A lot of actual hip hop as well, and R&B around that time too. That was pretty popular in the charts and things like that. So they were just playing songs on the radio and stuff like that, or songs that they knew of. And I didn't really have an interest in music, so I was just falling into whatever was popular at the time and things like that. It was only when I started playing an actual instrument that I started really delving into music and discovering what I like about music, and discovering artists that I like, and then that's when I kind of made my own musical taste. But yeah, that was the
What
story.
were a couple of the first artists or albums that you just started looking at? Because you say, well, the first instrument you started playing were the drums. So.
Drums, yeah. And once I started listening to drums, I started listening to a lot of artists that incorporated heavy rhythms and stuff like that in their music, particularly a lot of funk stuff. I really liked the driving funk stuff of Prince, Earth, Wind, Fire, a lot of hip-hop, which was sampled on a lot of old 70s record as well, and that was kind of a starting ground. A lot of Michael Jackson records as well. I was just looking at rhythms and stuff like that, and I was really into rhythms, and those artists really kind of stayed with me until now. Like a lot of the stuff I learned from listening to their music, I also took into my guitar playing and other instruments after that. I was really into bands like Oasis as well, so I was into another side of music that was more, I guess, rock or British music. I was into the White Stripes as well at the time. I was into a lot of stuff. Gorillaz was one of my favorite bands at the time, so I was listening to a lot of electronic music as well. And it was just a lot of different styles of music that I tried to embrace at that point.
So when did the other instruments come into it, the guitar and the keyboard?
Shortly after that. I think I played drums for about 2 years. I took lessons at my school for a few years, 2 years I think. And not that I got bored of it or anything, I just wanted to play a melodic instrument. I was very much into rhythms and stuff, but I wanted to pick up something that I could play melodies with and do that. So I thought the guitar might be the best one to go with, because it was the easiest for me to get at the time.
Right.
So I got a cheap little guitar and I started teaching myself, and just watching a lot of guitarists that I discovered, trying to figure out how they were doing it, learning it by ear. I didn't really have a teacher or anything at that point, so I was self-teaching myself how to play and how to do that. After I taught myself to play pretty well on guitar, I just took a lot of what I learned in terms of learning the musical side of the instrument and tried to apply that to learning keyboard in terms of chords, melodies, and learning how all the notes interact with each other. And that's when I got into keyboard, and then shortly after that I started singing as well, which was the thing that took me the longest to be comfortable with. And then that was pretty much it.
How come?
I think because it was I never really, I talked to a lot of singers about this, and I think when they start, or when I started, you're not really comfortable with your own voice. Like, so when you hear your voice back, you're always like, I don't like it. Or you're not really super comfortable with your own voice, but it took me a while to find that. And obviously with singing and stuff, because I'm not a trained singer, or not really a trained musician anyway, but it was really hard for me to figure out how to be a singer, because it's hard. It's not something that I have found natural, whereas playing an instrument was something that was really natural to me. But after a while, you know, you learn things along the way, and now I'm, you know, comfortable with a lot of things I do. So yeah.
And in this whole process, when did creating your own music come into it? Was it at the very start?
Yeah, because when I started playing or learning songs, I started figuring out, because I always had an interest in, I guess, behind the scenes or the fundamental of how it worked. So, so just say I'm learning a song, I'll try and figure out why that chord goes after that one, and how does that work, and what's the relationship between those notes that make that work. And then from that, just my brain or my curiosity was like, well, what happens if you don't go to that and you use that instead? And then that, you know, I started changing songs. I started, like, you know, remixing songs almost, like in a musical sense, making my own arrangements out of songs. Then from that was just a natural thing into going into making my own songs and writing my own material. And I wrote a lot of instrumental music first before I, you know, got into writing lyrics and stuff. So that was it was a natural thing, because as I started playing more music, I started, you know, having an interest in how music worked. And then from how music worked, I tried to put it into what can I do with the formula. So yeah.
And how did that translate to performing live? Did you take to that as naturally as you did to playing?
Yeah, I think so. Well,
do you remember your first show?
Yeah. I was like 15. I played drums in like a tiny bar, and I was in Australia. You have to be 18 to play in places like that. But we had like a really cool venue and stuff like that. They allowed me. We didn't have any alcohol anywhere around, so it was like all underage things that I was doing. We had like a lot of support from local government committee things that put on gigs for underage bands, things like that. So I took all those opportunities while I could to play shows and try and be comfortable with performing, because it's for a kid when you're learning. You're really self-conscious. You're really embarrassed about how you look, how you sound, and stuff like that. So I think the drums was a good way for me to start that, because if I stuffed up on drums, you could pretty much tell, like, because it's such an obvious thing if the drums just cut out in a show. So I think I felt like a lot of pressure, like I can't stuff up kind of thing. Whereas if a guitarist slips up on a note or something like that, I don't think it's as obvious as if the drummers completely messed the timing up. So I felt a lot of pressure to rise to the occasion of shows and actually be a solid foundation for the band. And then that mentality carried over when I started, you know, playing guitar and being the front man and stuff like that. I think I learnt a lot from sport in that way, in terms of the confidence that you have to have. Because I did athletics, it's an individual sport. You're really out there by yourself. I think a lot of that, what I learnt in terms of you know, getting the confidence within yourself to achieve something or to perform at your best. I think that's something I learned from sport, and I carried that over into music. So it was a lot of life lessons in that, but it was a shaky start, because I didn't really know how to perform or what to do. So it was a learning experience.
When then, because you say you started in a band playing drums,
yeah.
When did the decision come to kind of go at it on by yourself and do that one-man band type of thing?
Yeah, so after that band, I started playing guitar in another band. I put together another group, and we played small shows and things like that. But that second group, I wrote all the material. I pretty much played all the instruments on the recordings. So it was a solo project really anyway. And then from there, I just started making music that was way different to that. And I didn't have a band, I didn't have anything that could perform it. It was a little more electronic-based thing, so I was like trying to figure out how I'd go about putting together a group for this. And then I never got around to it. it was just like I was just making music by myself, you know, trying to put a band together around it, but it just never happened. I put the music up on the internet just under my own name. and people really responded to it and found it, and a lot of my friends really helped with spreading the word and sharing it around. And
at that point, what was your intention with what you were doing?
Yeah, so the reason I put it on the internet was because I wanted to see if anyone still likes this, because the music was a throwback to a lot of old 70s and early 80s stuff, a lot of funk-driven pop stuff. I wanted to see if that was of any, kind of, what's the word? I wanted to see if people were interested in that, because I wasn't sure if anyone was still interested in music by Prince and things like that. I didn't know really that much at that time. So I put it out on the internet, just on like YouTube and Facebook at the time and things like that, just to see what it could do. And it really spread pretty far. People were talking about it for a while. I got a lot of interest from record labels back home in Australia, and then shortly after that I just changed the name from Darren Hart to Harts, and it was all the same music and stuff, and we released an EP through Universal Music in 2013. And then from there, it's just been a natural progression to where I'm at today, so yeah.
Was that kind of the turning point where you say at first you thought about heading down the athletic road, and did music become serious at that point? That
was the turning point, yeah. I wanted it to become serious, but I didn't know whether the dream was a bit too... It was too much of a dream, because from where I'm from in Australia, and particularly background, I was born in India and stuff like that, that to be a famous musician or to be a respected musician is a huge dream kind of thing. It's a far out there thing. So I didn't know whether that was even possible, but I thought I wanted to give it a shot, and because I was getting a lot of support and encouragement for the music I was making, I thought maybe I had a shot at it. And then from there I went through a lot of trials and a lot of failures and stuff like that to get to the point I'm at today, but it's the same encouragement that keeps me going, the same motivation, that's the word, motivation. I was motivated to achieve something from that day. I wanted to release music, and that same motivation is still there, so yeah.